Dystopia tonight. Dystopia tonight.
I'm in a bubble right now.
Yeah. First of all, I just got it. Can I tell you how jealous I am of whatever it is you're sitting in? I feel like this is as close to the future as I'm going to get.
I think, it's as close to the future as I'll ever get as well. It's very rare that we get a hotel room that has these bubble chairs in them, and I'm in Montreal, and so I'm addicted to it. Really, I can't get. The thing is this: once you sit in this thing, you can't get out of it. It's impossible. I've been living here for 24 hours.
Oh my God. I'm so I mean, this is just it must be Montreal. I don't even know. You know, like I've been in hotel after hotel in America on the road. I've never seen this shit before.
No, Montreal there's the French call it the joie de vivre, that it just exists in all aspects of life here. So I enjoy it quite a lot. So here I can start this very Dr. Evilish. Like this.
Oh yeah.
Ready?
Yeah.
Hello, John.
Oh no. Oh, I'm in trouble. That was the extent of my acting ability, by the way. It was going like, oh no. Oh, how do I?
Well, you know what? The makeup's working anyway, so we'll just
Yeah. Oh my God. Thank you for doing this, man. I really appreciate you taking the time.
My pleasure. I hope this is okay. It's like
this is
all right. All right.
This is the epitome of what this show was meant to be. This is called Dystopia Tonight. So this feels like
this is extremely dystopian.
Yeah, it is. You know what? Honestly, I feel like if it is the end of the world and we're not all sitting in those things, like I hope that at the end of all things, we have to meet you at some point.
Yeah.
And Lawrence Gowan is just sitting in a bubble, like
a bubble chair.
Yeah. How may I?
Yeah. Ready? So yeah. And I'll just say, so how was it? Did you have fun?
Holy shit. Yeah, it was pretty good. It's pretty good.
Did you listen to some good music?
Oh, some great music. That's I honestly, if we could take anything with us at the end, I really hope. I mean, I've been a comedian for almost 20 years, but nobody is walking down the aisle to a comedy bit. You know what I mean? It's always music, you know?
Well, funny enough, you say that. That's actually not a bad idea. I consider walking down the aisle to the Monty Python parrot sketch. Can you imagine that? Can you imagine that? You know, it's been life. And you take so and so to be your lawful.
Oh my God. You know what? I'm good friends with John Cleese. Next time I see him, I'm going to tell him that you said that. I'm going to tell him that. That would be
Oh wow, that's better than any bubble chair I've ever sat in. No kidding. I've only ever met one person from Monty Python. It was Graham Chapman.
Oh, Graham.
Yeah. So, boy, that's like meeting the Beatles of comedy. That's for sure.
Yeah. No, I mean, I became really good friends with his daughter when I lived in LA. We were we met at a comedy club. We were on the same show, and we literally just kind of bonded by sitting in the back of the club before we were the last ones to go on, and we were just looking at the other comedians. We're going, this fucking sucks. This whole thing fucking sucks. Like we're like, this is no good. This is no good. Why would they do this? Why would they put us on the show? So, and we just bonded over that, and then became really good friends. And then one day, she was coming to the East Coast, and she sent me this text, and she goes, "Hey, I don't know if like you're a fan of my dad's, but we're gonna be in town." And I was like, "A fan of your dad's? Who starts a tech? Like who? Like what are you nuts?"
That would be like Julian or Sean Lennon saying, "Hey, I don't know if you like my dad, but I've got some of his tapes that we're listening to. Would you like to come over?"
Exactly.
No, I'm going to go to Subway. I got a really good sandwich there.
Yeah. Yeah, I can't make it.
Yeah.
Do you honestly, I don't know if you have friends that are like this now. Like I feel like this wouldn't have happened like even I was gonna say 20 years ago, but I feel like even 10 years ago. But I literally like, from doing the podcast and then doing comedy for so long, like especially you, I mean, you're incredibly famous, but like you get these opportunities to meet people or to go to an event or to go to do a thing, and then you ask like a friend to go because you're finally like, hey man, we're gonna do this cool shit that we never got to when we were younger. And I'll literally sometimes I'll have some of them be like, oh, I don't know if I can get it to work that day. And I'm like, are you out of your fucking mind? Like, are you fucking joking right now? Like, we're gonna go meet like backstage with these awesome people and you want to go to work? So
Yeah, that's again that would be a deathbed regret, wouldn't it?
exactly.
Did John Cleese's daughter ever invite you to one of her father's shows and you said no?
No, never.
Because if you did, hell.
Exactly. Exactly. Oh my God. No, I'm so glad. So you've got you're in Canada right now.
Yes, we just played in Montreal or Laval, which is part of Montreal, last night, and an epic audience. I always did well here as a solo artist, and Styx were like massive here in Quebec and all of Canada's, of course, but particularly in
Yeah.
Quebec. So our show last night was a wonderful. Just a wonderful thing that I'm reliving already this morning, waking up. It was tremendous.
Fantastic, man. Do you, I mean, obviously you're still appreciative of the audiences and that kind of thing and going out and being able to tour and stuff. But I always kind of ask just because this whole entire operation here was born out of the, pandemic because and
Yeah,
not being able to tour.
yeah.
But I mean, like what was your reaction to not being able to go out on the road or work with friends? Like, did you take the downtime and, try to enjoy it? Or are you one of those people who has to be, you know, uh, always performing, always in front of an audience? Like, how did you handle that?
I'll give you the honest answer now, because when I was first asked that back in 2021, I knew that people had gone through such an
Mm,
ordeal that I didn't want to betray uh, any insensitivity, so to speak, to what people had gone through, and some of them
sure.
the biggest tragedy of their lives. But now that we've had a little bit of time, and reflecting on it, it's funny to me because there's no place on earth I love quite as much as being on stage in front of thousands of people that are flipping out, except
Right.
to music. But 2020 for me ended up being a great year of reflection that I quite enjoyed, quite honestly, in that
Yes.
it wasn't. I thought I would miss the accolades, so to speak, but I didn't. All that I really missed was the bonding that happens
Mm,
through music. And because of what we're doing right now, John, is technology actually this is where it shone. It filled that gap for me, and I converted our my little basement studio, which was a wreck, into kind of a semi television studio. We didn't have bubble chairs, of course. I mean, we didn't go crazy, but it became the conduit to connecting with people. And I would go on there usually once or twice a week, play something, take people requests, etc. And as the months went by, the technology really caught up with what people wanted to do. So, for example, at first, sonically, it sucked, right? But people
yeah.
people were extremely forgiving. They were as forgiving as when a performer goes on stage and you know they're under the weather. Audiences
Mm,
audiences reach out, and because there's a sympathetic thing that kicks in, and they're very accepting of that, generally speaking, um, unless it was self-induced, in which they might be a little bit more like, "Hey, I did spend
yeah.
very good money on this." But you know what I mean. If you've got the
Yeah.
or something. But I found that this is where this technology that we're utilizing right now, that I didn't even know existed
Yeah.
prior to that. It really filled the gap, quite honestly, it in ways that I couldn't imagine. So, for example, I would do things like this: get up, decide what song I'm going to do today, um, rehearse it for a while in the morning, then go out on my bike. because it's a lone activity that you can do.
Yeah.
Ride around the city. I live in Toronto. Ride around anywhere I wanted. There was hardly any traffic.
Right.
and I would kind of reflect on my life and the song that I'm going to do today. I'd get back home, you know, fix myself up to some degree, and
Hmm.
get ready to perform. And
Yeah.
even though it was one song, it filled the void for me, quite honestly, for a whole year. Now, having said that, the moment that we stepped onto an actual stage in 2021, in June of 2021, yep,
Wow.
June 12th of 2021, the moment the thousands of people were suddenly there and you saw their faces and you saw their emotions, were very, evident. Some people were actually crying, um, and not because we were bad, but they were there was an emotional release there that was inescapable, and I went, okay, just being deprived of this to the degree that I was, and filling that
Hmm.
gap was good, but there's nothing like this. There's nothing like
Right.
human to human connection through music. This mystical language that we all vibrate to, and so that's my long-winded answer from the bubble to that
That's a I might name this episode "Long-Winded Answers from
long-winded
the
answers.
Bubble." That is a genius title, by the way. Long-Winded
Yeah,
Answers from the Bubble.
yeah,
No, that's beautiful, dude. And I mean, I feel that on every level, like coming out of all of that kind of thing. It's so weird because there's so many people who don't really want to bring it up or talk about it. Even when I'm on stage nowadays, like it's
yeah,
very like you can mention it a little bit, but it's
yeah.
hard to navigate. But even so, like I mean, I think there's residual side effects that we're still trying to figure out. Not just to mention the actual
John,
virus itself, but like just the mental effect. Like we all went through a thing, but
yeah,
I think there's so like again a lot like you said, a lot of very like when I lost people during it and everything, but there was something else that came out of it, and it especially in the arts, and I feel like a lot of um like legacy bands like really started coming out, like more like I've been going to concerts more than I think I've ever gone to before, just because this thing clicked of like, holy shit, there's a lot of amazing music and comedy and just all this other stuff that you might be missing, or just interactions with friends. And it's been a blast. And I'm glad, that you guys are feeling it too from the audience and the crowd.
I couldn't agree more. Everything that you just said there, I'm in full agreement with. First of all, you started by, I have noticed, as probably everyone has, the psychological impact of the effect that
Mm,
everyone to some degree is a little bit still dealing with that, or they use the term processing now, but they really are dealing with
sure.
their own reaction to that. And
Yeah.
I was very fortunate. Um,
Hmm.
uh, but there were other things about it that now that I look back, I go, oh, yeah,
Yeah.
that wasn't so good. But I think, let's so there's that. But then
Yeah.
there's the what you just said about wanting to re-embrace this whole thing that we have as humanity. And I remember the last concert I saw, I was so grateful I went to it. Because it started. The last concert I saw was Elton John and Farewell Yellow Brick Road.
Beautiful.
Just tremendous experience.
Yeah.
I saw it when I was 15 years. I saw Goodbye Yellow Brick Road when I was 15 years old. And
Wow.
here I am, 50 years later, or whatever it was, yeah, seeing it, and the entire row behind me, all
Mhm.
15, 16, 17-year olds, the same age I was when
Wow.
I first saw it, reacting to it and connecting to it to the same degree that I did all those years past, and realizing this is just great music flat out, and what an experience it is. And then the first concert back that I saw after Styx had played about 50 shows, I got to see Genesis, and
Oh, wow.
again, it was just, I felt that audience rush of like, how could I possibly have missed this if I had the opportunity to go and see it and hear it and feel it. And that was just a watershed moment of everything kind of, it righted the world for me, quite frankly. Just being an
Yeah.
audience member in that moment. and yeah, it's the greatest form of entertainment. It's beyond entertainment, really, to me. A great rock concert. It's it's um, it's something of a higher nature, you know.
Yeah.
You know, but quite honestly, I didn't. Comedy does a lot of the same for me too. I have to be honest. And great comedians they can save your day.
Yes,
They, they
absolutely.
they have the ability to save your day. I mean, now I hate to reduce it to this, but sometimes if I'm on Instagram and I see something that just cracks me up,
Yeah,
something, the other day there was a Jim Gaffigan thing. I just happened to hit on. It's only like 30 seconds long.
sure.
I couldn't get it out of my head for the whole day. It's like a great song. It's like a
Yeah.
great song. It's there. It'll always be there now. And I'm more and more grateful for these things as I get older, and I look at the world and the terrible state of things for so many people and how they don't get to enjoy these things. But boy, if they ever get the chance again, I know they will.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Do you remember the Jim Gaffigan bit? I know Jim a bit. I love him.
Oh my God, it was the one about his gym. The gym he goes to is the YMCA in New York. Yeah. And if you think, he says, I'll paraphrase him something. And if you think this is like a really low class gym, you'd be right. This was the joke that cracked me up. I looked at I think it was something like a 98-year-old woman, Asian woman on the treadmill at 98, and it was so inspiring to me. It inspired me to want to die in my 70s. That is like, I can't deliver it that way.
Yeah, no, but it's so good.
Just that alone, it's so like, I just thought, oh my God, because I want to be the 98-year-old on the treadmill, and I want to know how she did it.
Yeah, absolutely.
I want to.
Oh, that's so funny.
It's
But
funny when you just go, how the hell with it.
yeah, no, but I know what you mean too. And it's funny that you went to the Farewell Yellow Brick Road tour, because I went to the Farewell Yellow Brick Road tour right before the COVID hit.
That's it.
And I remember thinking,
Yeah,
that's going to be the last concert I see. And
yeah.
I was kind of okay. I was like, that was a great, like,
Great way to
I was
cap,
like, yeah,
great way to
you
cap it
can't.
off. Great way to cap it off for
And I,
the last
and the
concert.
other,
Yeah, go
do
ahead.
you, I gotta ask you, do you go to concerts as the lead singer of Styx, or do you go to concerts as a fan? You know what I mean? Like, are you like, I have to know.
Well, first of all, there's a big lit up sign that I wear that says lead singer of Styx. Right, sitting right here. The people behind me, it really pisses them off. I can tell you, because they can't read it. It's backwards, right from there.
Right.
Um, the word is punter. I'm a complete punter at shows. I've always been that way.
Sure.
Probably an embarrassment to be beside in the audience, because I'm like the guys the people that I see in the front row who are flipping out.
Yeah.
I'm that person.
Good.
I can't help it. It's just, I've had so many of my greatest life experiences at rock concerts. I'll tell you one of the most amazing ones for me.
Mhm.
And then I want to flip back to one more thing we were just discussing.
Sure.
2020 was that in 1981, I saw Peter Gabriel at Maple Leaf Gardens in Toronto, and that was the tour where the band would come through the audience. They'd actually walk through the audience from various. Then they would converge at the stage, and they'd come through with these lights
Mhm.
in their hands, these kind of torch lights, flashlights they were, but good,
Right.
cool. All wearing these. And Tony Levin, the great bass player, musical legend that he is, he came right by me, and just, I don't know why, I put my arm around him, like, he's a tall guy, put my arm around Tony. We got to make an album together someday. I don't know why I said that. I just came out of my mouth. A year later, no, sorry, that's wrong. No, that was 81. 3 years later, I was in the studio with him in Ringo Starr's home, making an album.
Oh my God.
That happened.
That's incredible.
Yeah. So I mean, don't expect that to happen at every concert. But that's the kind of thing that can just kind of occur. I mean, it did for me, and that's not what I go looking for, by the way. But it just
No.
be one moment. I want to circle back to one thing.
Sure.
One other great thing that happened with Styx was that we worked on Crash of the Crown, which is our latest
Mhm.
album, through 2020. But when 2020, when the shutdown stuff started, we didn't even listen to what we had done so far on that record because we
Okay.
worked on most of it actually in 2019. But when we went and listened to the songs, we realized somehow we've tied in the lyrics of this album amazingly tie in with the fact that it's an album about renewal after a cataclysmic event without ever specifying what that event is.
Wow.
And when we listened to the songs again, probably around May, June of 2020, we realized we got to finish this album. This is like really timely, which we did throughout the rest of that year. So that's another great thing that we were able to do because of this technology, hooking
Yeah.
up studios from different cities, Nashville, Toronto, Austin. Anyway, uh, Universal very wisely decided we won't release this album. We finished it by the end of the year until you play your first live show again.
Oh.
So when we went out in June, that was the day they released it. And 10 days later, it got to number one on the Billboard Rock Album chart. That to me is like, first of all, tremendous marketing. And
Yeah.
second of all, what a boost that was for the band to come back after
Right.
close to a year and a half, well, 16 months anyway, and have all of this happen in such quick succession. And it really is, we've been kind of flying on that for the past couple of years because, the legacy of the band is greater than ever.
Yeah.
And the fact that we've been able to make new music that's connected with so many people in such a way is pretty fortunate.
Absolutely. And I wonder too, because like you just said that album, you didn't even realize it at the time, but it was about kind of almost what we're about to go through. What were you guys feeling when you were making it? Because it's kind of interesting that like you did feel like something was happening. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah, there were,
all of you.
yeah, there was something. If you think back to 2019
Hmm.
and even early 2020, there was just something I can't say specifically what it was in the air, but it almost like you know we have some degree of premonition about a looming thing, whatever it happens to be. I believe we have that to some degree. We have some foresight like that, because maybe it's part of our animal instinct that I don't know, but there's something where
Sure.
you can sense there's something in the wind that is just not quite.
Quite right. Yeah.
Insert your joke here.
Yeah. Exactly. Well, listen, if you were in Canada, it was definitely coming from America. America dealt it around 2019. That whole time period, we were stinking it up a bit. You know, if you're talking about anything in the wind, I can name a few names for you.
So we'll steer well wide of that
Yeah.
right now.
That's
Whoa,
when
whoa!
the bubble chair. Yeah.
Oh dear, carried away. This is like the wizard at the end of it, or no, it's like
Yeah.
in the Wizard of Oz. Yeah,
Yeah.
when Glinda finally says goodbye. Woo.
I hope at the end of this, you do just float up into the ceiling in that ball. There's like
I'll do everything I can.
one of the other bandmates is pulling you on a rope.
We'll try it with it. We'll try a special effect of some manipulate this laptop. Yeah.
But yeah, no, but that is very cool that you guys had that kind of premonition and then realized, oh my God, no, this actually did wind up happening. It's just interesting. Are you like, as you guys have gone on, like you're obviously like you have a cultural impact, across the music spectrum, across decades. And it's interesting too, like a lot of the 80s music is kind of coming back and finding its way into, into popular culture today, like even like a Stranger's Things, that, you know what I mean? Like all that stuff is kind of implementing itself. Are you guys like, you guys, defined and lived through, that decade, the 80s, you know what I mean? And it's kind of like the 80s are still, somebody said to me the other day that the 80s are going to be technically like 50 years ago. Like, we're going to have to reference it as 50 years ago, but it doesn't feel like that. I know it is crazy, but I think it's one of those things where, like, I don't think the other decades had as much of an impact on the culture as like 60s, 70s, 80s. You know what I mean? Like 40s, nobody gives a shit about. 30, like if you were in the 50s, no one was like, hey, what were the 30s? Like, nobody gave a shit, you know? But like, do you embrace that kind of thing? Do you feel like, like, oh, why? Like, you know what I mean? Like, we lived through that decade. It was all right, like, you know what I mean? Like,
I have thought that just everything you just articulated there has gone through my mind many times because, and I've tried to kind of distill why that would be. Why is it that, okay, so I joined Styx in 1999. So I
yes,
missed that era of the 70s of them, etc. But
right.
so I've been in the band now. I'm in my 26th year at this point.
Yes,
But
congrats.
I went through this, the 60s as a child. I was born in the
Yeah.
60s, went through the 60s, the 70s, and all of that music, we were kind of inundated with this notion that it
Hmm.
was temporary, that this music was pop music, no matter how progressive rock it happened to be or whatever it was a temporary, transient type of music. It's indisputable now that rock music is the great musical statement of the last half of the 20th century. I guess you could argue that the first half of this new millennium, that rap and hip hop is the big musical statement so far.
Sure.
I would say that the first 50 years of the first half of the 20th century was defined by jazz and all of its spin-offs, swing music, and boogie woogie or whatever you want to say. That actually
Sure.
precedes a wee bit, but it influenced everything of that first 50 years. The moment electricity was introduced to music and a small combo could make a big noise, rock music came into its own. And through those decades, I happen to be very much connected to the 80s because that's when I made my solo records. My first
Right.
4 solo records are all from the 1980s. And I was, where are you located right now, John?
I'm in New Jersey.
Oh, okay. All right. And so my records weren't released in the US, but they did extremely well here in Canada. They were multi-platinum records here in Canada,
Hmm.
at the top of the charts. And I'd be on television. We have Much Music here, which is kind of the equivalent of MTV. So I'd be on television 6, 7, 8 times a day with these songs and hearing other 80s acts, some of which I didn't care for at the time. And when I
Sure.
hear their music now, I'm like, wow, the melodic content of the music of that era is really, it's inescapable. It's
Yeah.
it's undeniable. Those melodies, even like I say, songs that I was not particularly enamored with at the time, have become really great pieces to me today. Um,
Sure.
and I look at it now as like this was actually really, really strong music. And the proof of it is it stood the test of time. Nothing stands the test of time unless it's got some validity to it. It's not, you know, the hula hoop and bubble chairs, they'll never come back. but, but the music just keeps on coming.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. And I mean, it's something. There's something about that decade's worth of music. Not that the '90s didn't have it, because I'm a big '90s guy. Like, I love all the bands that came out of the '90s and stuff too,
Yeah.
and whatever. But there
Oh,
is
great.
something about,
God.
yeah. Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I
Radiohead.
mean,
I mean, come on. Yeah, it's great.
oh yeah, absolutely, man. Radiohead. Yeah, I'm lovely you're a Radiohead fan. Um, yeah, like there's something about again, even putting in like a Styx album or whatever. It makes you happy. I can't explain it. There's an 80,
People,
there's a
we end every day. Last night was no exception. Looking at thousands of people with great big smiles on their faces, their arms in
Mhm.
the air, in a state of ecstasy,
Yeah.
like me at a rock concert, basically. And that's just phenomenal. We played
Yeah.
last night. I had a song from my solo years called "A Criminal Mind," and Styx have adopted that as a Styx song.
Yeah.
And
I love that song.
thanks. And the audience sang along, sang their hearts out to it, and I'm like, God, I played this song here back in 1985, and it's not only still alive, but I'm looking at people that weren't even born
Yeah.
that had some phenomenal cosmetic surgery because they're 20 years old. And they're singing every word and they're connecting to it because this is the power of a melody. Yeah, I was lucky enough to come up with a melody there that just stayed with people long enough that they can sing their hearts out to it all these years later. And those that weren't even born when it came out, they connect to it the same way that I'll connect to any piece of music from the George Gershwin piece or something. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But you're right, particularly in the fact that it's odd that it would be a very niche audience, let's put it this way, in the 1970s to look back 50 years and go, oh man, are you kidding? I love the stuff from the 1920s. That'd be 50 years ago, right?
Right. Yeah, absolutely.
I'm all about Rudy Valley and, you know, Jelly Roll Morton. I was about Jelly Roll Morton.
Yeah.
Piano player. But you know what I mean? Like to have millions of people around the world still loving that music and reacting to it when they weren't even born in that era is pretty solid proof that it really does have a lot of enough weight to it that it could withstand all of that test of time.
Well, one of the things I wanted to know too is because, like you had said, you came into Styx in 1999, but you had a very successful career and you're classically trained. I would love to know the thought, like when they approached you, you know, what was your thought process behind like joining the band? Were you like absolutely no questions asked? Because you had to fill, somebody else's shoes and then also come into a band that they already knew each other. They were established. You know what I mean? Like, it must have been, was it a hard decision to make?
It absolutely seems like a no-brainer now.
Mm-hmm.
Honestly, if to use that hackneyed expression, but to be really blunt with you, it was. I had to weigh it in my mind. It didn't take me too long. It took me about an hour. But there's a series of things that happened prior to that phone call where they put it forward. The series of things are this. One is that, funny enough, I'm in Montreal right now. I did a show with Styx in 1997, 2 years prior. And on that tour, I was completely alone. They saw me on stage in front of about 18,000 people, and they saw the reaction and heard the audience singing back all these songs that they were mostly unfamiliar with. And the audience reaction and they saw, oh, so there's this guy. But there was, apparently everything was fine and harmonious within the ranks at that point. The following year, funny enough, I was playing in England. I was playing at the opening of Princess Diana's memorial, which was because I had a piece of music called Healing Waters that her family really liked and wanted played there, and so I was on the bill with Duran Duran and Sir Cliff Richard, and Todd Sertman was playing there on that day, drums. For one day he was hired, and he came up to me and said, remember me from Styx? Last year we did a show together. And I think, yeah, of course. So that's the second touchstone. And as I was doing this tour in England, I was opening for the Stranglers. If anybody remembers the Stranglers.
Yeah, absolutely.
UK tour. Oh God.
Yeah.
One of my greatest memories. I love that band.
Oh, that's awesome, man.
Yeah. And on that tour, I got a lot of publicity because I was born in the UK. I was born in Scotland, and someone had calculated that among Scottish artists, I was in the top, I can't remember what it was, 25 selling Scottish artists who they barely heard of because the record label.
Right.
Anyway, just some press things like that got elevating. And the publicist I had, Judy Totten was her name, she said, it's very obvious to me that you're at a stage in your career where you're going to join a band. And I completely put the idea down. I said, Judy, I'm a solo artist. I've got 6 solo albums. I just put out a greatest hits album, just put out a live album. This is what I do, right? Then she brought up a couple of names I won't mention, but of very sizable bands, let's put it that way, some of which are doing record business on the road this year, who said, they're looking for someone who can play the piano and sing like you do.
Wow.
And I would put your name forward to them if you want me to go that way. So I kind of gave it some thought and said, yeah, well, let's come back to that. I came home, and within a couple of weeks, that phone call came from Tommy Shaw and James Young. And they
Wow.
said, we'd like, my assumption immediately was when I opened the show for them, it went so well. And Tommy said to me after I came off stage that night, he said, we got to do more of this in the future. Not
Mhm.
knowing that what he was saying at the time was for me to open for them. So when they called, my assumption on the call was, yeah, I'd love to open shows for you guys in the States. The internet is up and working now. People can find your music. I don't have to worry about the worldwide release. It's automatic now as compared to
Right.
what happened in the 80s. And
Yeah.
I would love that. They went, actually, no, of having you actually be in the band. And
Wow.
so I thought, okay, one, the universe might be trying to tell me something here. Maybe I should listen. Okay. Two, I loved their show. I really enjoyed see when I saw Styx. I thought this is exceeds expectations, and I had high expectations and exceeded those. Three was that I kind of liked them as people. I did the little bit of interaction that we'd had, and four was like, can I hit those notes?
Right. Right.
Said, give me an hour. I went and got my Grand Illusion album out, listened, and realized, okay, we have this similar register. I can get to those notes, and all of those things fell into place. And I thought about what Judy had said to me, and I thought about meeting Todd in England, and I thought about all those little things kind of culminated to like, this is where the road wants you to go. Just go,
Yeah.
just see what happens. That weekend, I went to Tommy's place. He was living in Los Angeles at that time. And this is where it gets very kind of poetic. His house at that time was right up by the Hollywood sign. And as I'm sitting in his studio, it was a garage converted studio. I'm
Hmm.
looking out and I'm looking at the Hollywood sign in front of me, and this would be great in a movie. It's like Tarantino's, Hollywood ending.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I'm sitting there, and I'd learned Crystal Ball and Grand Illusion, and I think Lady and Fooling Yourself. So I was ready,
Hmm.
and I'm about to play, and Tommy goes, "No, hang on, no, play A Criminal Mind. Just play that." And I'm like, "Oh, great." It's a hard song to play in front of, he's got his wife and their friends and everything.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
went through it, and at the end of it, he goes, "Okay, we should make that a Styx song." And I just felt, oh, I like these guys a lot. And then
Wow.
when we sang together, our voices blended. To their judgment, they thought that we've got the signature 3-part Styx harmony
Yeah.
that's so vital to the band, and we can. And the beautiful thing was, they said, "Listen, like JY said, I like the way you're singing these songs. Just don't, keep doing them the way you're doing them, because just sing them like yourself. You don't have to." And they've never ever brought up me trying to emulate in any way, um, other than to stick. I mean, I stick by the melodies and the original lyrics, obviously, because they're
Sure.
so ingrained and they're so well written. And
Yeah.
I so because of all those factors, they've remained in place for all this time. So, like I say, you ask me now, and I think, of course, I said yes right away. But the truth of it was, I had to kind of mull over a few things. And Todd, funny enough, had said he wasn't sure if I would do it because he'd seen me in a couple of really good settings and thought, you know, it's not that easy to just walk away from 6 albums of material and go, okay, I'm not going to play that for a while. And I never came back to playing solo shows again until 2010.
Wow. That's incredible, though.
But I do about 20 shows a year now, Gowan shows. I've got a few.
That's awesome, man.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then so when I just so I'm gonna get a couple of these questions because I'm just curious. You're when you were younger.
Yeah.
I mean, I know you've been involved in music for a very long time. You're from Scotland, right?
Yeah, born in Glasgow. Yeah, my dad's
Born in
Irish,
Glasgow.
my mother was Scottish. Yeah,
Which is awesome, by the way. I've always wanted to go. I've never gotten a chance to go. It's one of those. I've always wanted to visit Scotland,
I,
Scotland and Ireland. Actually, the two.
I,
I'm Italian, and I have no interest.
oh, no interest in where?
No interest in going to Italy. I don't know why, but I've always wanted to go to Glasgow and Ireland.
And I've wanted to go. I've only played in Italy once, only in
Oh,
Milan. But I would highly recommend a trip to Scotland or Ireland.
yeah.
And
I
I don't
think
even
there's
work for their tourist board.
I have I have family in England, and I've heard, I don't even know if it exists anymore, but I heard there's like a nice train ride like to Scotland with like a nice view and like all that other stuff. Maybe it doesn't exist, but I've
Fantastic.
read about it. Is
Absolutely.
it?
Yeah.
Oh, I can't wait. Yeah, that's what I'd love to do.
Yeah.
But what I was gonna say was, so when you decided to go on and be a musician and whatever, like how was that conversation with your parents, or was there a conversation? Because I feel like back then you kind of, there was no cell phones, no email, there was no really ties that bind. So when you kind of left, you left. You know what I mean? Like, so was it a hard conversation to have? Did they understand what you were doing?
Okay. So my parents were extremely supportive.
Hmm.
However, my dad was a very natural Irish, very natural musician. Played the piano great, and etc. But he worked at IBM. I mean, he was a sailor in the Royal
Hmm.
Navy, and then when he moved to Canada, he worked for IBM.
Yeah.
And my mom was a very musically uh, talented person in her own way. She sang beautifully and um, was extremely supportive. Them like moms are. Um,
Mhm.
but my dad, yeah, when I was about, you have to understand, when I was about say 16 or so, and he saw that I was getting really more serious about music than I was about school and that sort of thing.
Mhm.
That formal education, and when I announced to him that I'm not going to college, I'm going to go to the Royal Conservatory full time and just play the piano because I'm going to be a musician. He was not he was not knocked out by that idea. I can tell you. Um,
Yeah.
so there were some years of he was a very disciplined person, having a naval background, especially. But he saw me kind of persevere with it. And by the time I was 19, when I was 19, I started my first professional gigs. Let's call it that. They were,
Hmm.
I was playing, I got a gig at a Holiday Inn a few miles outside of Toronto. And about the third night, we were going over really well. And, I was still living in my parents' basement at that point. And I said, he asked me, so how are these shows going? And I said, people love it. And he came
Hmm.
out to the show, I think it was a Wednesday or a Thursday night, because you played 6 nights a week back then.
Sure.
And he came out, and from that day forward, he couldn't have been more supportive. He just dug it. He said, I mean, I remember when I came off stage after one of our sets, he said, it was a kind of a great moment where he said to me, I knew you were good, but I
Yeah.
didn't know that you were really, really good. You know,
Wow.
that was great. I mean, and that's, I guess if there's a great, when you see your children passionate about something, um, why get in the way of it? Because they're going to do it anyway, you know,
Right.
unless it's something that's going to kill them. I mean, if they're passionate about smoking crack, you might want to say, you might want to go with crack light for a little while. But, but you know what I mean. If they're throwing themselves into something,
Yeah.
they're really, you can see and quite honestly, they should have a talent for it too. I mean,
Yeah.
if I,
Yeah. Yeah.
Dad, look, I'm all about basketball. You know, I'm gonna make it. I really am. Well, I've never seen you play basketball before. Well, I don't care. And you're 5'8". Well, I don't care. I'm just passionate about it. Maybe you should be more of a fan.
Yeah. 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 Absolutely.
Okay, so there should be some observation, and I think my dad had that moment where he went, he, audiences are reacting very positively to what he's doing on stage, whatever the hell that is. And it's, so if someone wanted to be a comedian, for example, I mean,
Right.
that's even a lower rung than a musician, let's face it.
Oh my god. Oh, dude, we're like we're lower than strippers. It's just it's the it's not even a contest, man.
Yeah.
I'm a
Now there's
yeah.
a conversation I'd like to hear one day. Dad, I just want to be a stripper. And dad comes out and sees you and then says, I knew you were good, but you're really, really good.
The way you shot that ping pong out of, I mean, that is
Yeah, this might not be great advice on my point. The bubble might be getting to me. So you know what? I know Jacqueline Bouvier Kennedy said the one thing that you'll get wrong in life, guaranteed, is the raising of your children.
Yeah,
How
yeah,
good
yeah.
or bad a job you do. But if they've got a talent and they're really devoted to that talent, and you can see that, why not encourage them? If they have,
Yeah,
I heard it's a professor guy that's on that I'm kind of paraphrasing here. It's your passion is can often become your hobby, and you'll get just as much enjoyment out of it. But
absolutely.
if you have a talent, if you discover what your talent is, and it's good to be supportive of anybody's talent. So I'm,
Yeah.
you know, yeah,
It's interesting nowadays too because you can have like I mean my friends and I talk about this all the time, especially just in comedy and stuff too. But where it's like we do have this talent. It's been our thing growing up was, and this makes me sound now I'm going to sound like an old man, but like this was get good at what you're doing. You know what I mean? If you got a talent for it, you got a knack for it, you have to hone it and you have to work at it for years.
yeah,
And not to say that it's all like this now, but for the most part, it's so heavily influenced by social media and a follower count and like whatever that is. We're struck like even me to this like even me now like it's just you're struggling where like you know I'm good at what I do. I'm confident I could do anything. I mean it's at the point where now it's just there's so much enjoyment in writing and creating and getting on stage. That's the fun part. Everything else is next to brutal. It's just you know the internet is crushing, soul crushing.
yeah.
So
Yes, it can be. I mean, I touted the attributes of it when we were talking about what happened in 2020, and
oh yeah,
that is the two sides of the coin of any new invention. Where the big discussion now is AI, which is going to do
yep,
some phenomenally great things and potentially end humanity as we know it. So there's somewhere between there. It'd be nice to find
right.
a happy medium. Um,
Always in the middle.
yeah, something in the middle there. Yeah,
Isn't it weird how like it's become like this slow burn thing though, where like I had every movie we've seen, especially 80s movies, you know what I mean, where it's like AI took over. It was quick, man, and it was violent, and we were all we didn't look like this, you know what I mean? Like we were like ready to go in a battle, and now you just realize, oh, it's a slow fucking decline.
it's a
It
slow
it, it
burn.
is it,
It's a
yeah,
slow
it's gonna
burn.
erode.
Yeah.
you
It's
know.
it's a slow burn. Well,
Um,
let's hope for the best.
Absolutely. I really I can't thank you enough, man, for coming on, and I could talk to you for a whole other hour, man. I want to ask you the last three questions that I ask every guest on the show.
Hit me.
First question is a bit of a softball question, but if you can go back in time and talk to your younger self, what piece of advice would you give yourself that would help you today?
Well, oh boy. Uh, uh, Piece of advice. Oh, definitely. Would be something like, well, honestly, it's going to be okay. That's probably it. It's going to be okay.
Beautiful.
That'd be it.
I love that.
It's,
I really do love that because I think a lot of younger people need to hear somebody who's established say that they needed to hear it when they were younger.
it is. It actually is. Things are going to work out to some degree.
I need
You
to
know?
hear it. So the second question is, what had to end in your life, good or bad, that led you to where you are right now?
It's unfortunate that what had to end. I guess, boy, there's two ways of answering that. I guess it's sad to see that some friendships have to come to an end.
Um,
That sometimes there's a time, there's an expiry date on some friendships that you might have thought would last throughout your life, and they're just not possible to do. And we try to fill that gap a little bit now. There's a bit of regret now where there are certain friends that I wish I'd had been able to had the time or been able to stay connected to, who are now
yeah,
gone. So I have a bit
right.
of regret over that, and try to fix that as much as I can uh, every day by in some way. So that's what I'm sad. Those things they do come to an end, and it's sad.
I completely agree. You sound a little like you're like me in that respect, where if when I've either fought very hard to keep a friendship,
Yeah,
alive, or to maintain it, and then when you realize you have to let it go, it feels kind of like a death
I,
because
it is, and then the actual death that I'm,
And then, yeah,
No.
exactly. Well, it's one of those things where the longer you've known somebody, you realize that's the only person that has a large chunk of your history.
That's right.
You meet new people,
That's right.
it's great, but
That's right.
you know,
Yeah.
yeah.
But that's it.
Yeah, absolutely, man. And the last question ties into the show. The show's called Dystopia Tonight. If you woke up tomorrow and you found out everybody's last day on Earth and it was a genuine dystopia, more so than it is now, what do you think would be the cause? Do you think it would be political collapse, climate change, a comet heading toward Earth, aliens, zombies, and what would be your epic death? How you going out?
Oh, I kind of hope it's aliens.
Yes, me too.
I mean, just to kind of go, holy shit, they did exist.
Yes.
How did you even get here? Fried, vaporized. And that's it. That's like the equivalent of dying in your sleep. It's as good as it gets. But I think vaporized by aliens is probably a great way to go.
Absolutely, my guy. Absolutely, dude. That's fucking beautiful. Thank you so much for doing this, man. I really had a good time with you. I hope you had a good time too.
I did. I really did, John.
Thank you.
Good luck with all your comedy. Keep doing it.
Thank you, man. I appreciate it. I hope to see you soon too in person. I'm gonna come see you guys.
Let's do that.
Dystopia Tonight.